I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking about donor eggs. As you know, I had both my kids with donor eggs. Years later, I discovered there were physical and mental emotional stressors on my body that led to my premature ovarian insufficiency or failure diagnosis. Now, as you may know, we help couples that have POI or POF, low AMH, diminished ovarian reserve, get pregnant naturally, or if they do need to go to IVF, get pregnant with their own eggs. But if you have decided that donor eggs are your option, and this is a very personal decision, so if it is right for you right now, then we also help couples that have decided that donor eggs are their next best step. So there's still steps you need to take to optimize the success with donor eggs. Donor eggs have a 50% success of working, so it's important to address the underlying health factors for both you and your partner. So excited for you to listen to this podcast episode. We're digging into the physical and the mental, emotional steps that you can take right now and how the functional approach offers a solution and addresses the healing opportunities that are often missed by conventional medicine. So excited for you to listen. Hey there. Thanks so much for listening to the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast. And I've got a favor to ask you. If you are enjoying learning about the functional approach to fertility, consider going to iTunes and rating and reviewing the podcast. This is how it helps the show reach more people that are struggling with infertility, knowing that there's another approach that really can get to the bottom of why it's not working in the first place. So all you need to do is, if you're on the app or the desktop, just go in and consider leaving a 5-star rating and leave a review. And there is step-by-step instructions in the show notes showing you exactly how to do that. So if you can just take a few minutes, just take the few minutes right now. You can pause this recording, come back, leave the review. It would really mean the world to me and help others that are on the fertility journey as well. Take care. Hey there. I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 2 spots available per month to work with us. So the Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery call is for action takers. And really people who are ready to move forward so they can finally have their baby. And if you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. So if you're seriously considering working with us, go to Fab Fertile, F-A-B, fertile.com and click on book a free call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. That's Fab Fertile, F-A-B, fertile.com and click on book a free call. One theme that keeps coming up with the couples in our Fab Fertile Couples Coaching Program is sleep. Whether it's insomnia, having a hard time falling asleep, waking up at night, or feeling tired when we wake up, sleep is critical for fertility and hormones. And that's why I'm so excited to have Blue Blocks as our podcast sponsor. So we're exposed to blue and green light from our phones, our tablets, our computers, indoor lights, and more. And this exposure impacts our melatonin production. And melatonin is essential for both female and male fertility. It helps determine the frequency and duration of our cycle and impacts sperm. There's lots of blue light blocking glasses on the market, but the ones from Blue Blocks, they've actually compared other popular brands, and Blue Blocks block 100% of blue and green light, while other brands fall short. So I have their sleep glasses. They have red lenses, and the ones I have are a little translucent frame, and they're so stylish and really cool. And so they eliminate 100% of the blue and green light in the 400 nanometer to 550 nanometer range. So this is the exact range that has been shown in clinical studies to disrupt melatonin and negatively impact your sleep. So all you do is wear your sleep glasses after sunset until it's time for bed, and you'll notice improved sleep after just one use. And it's also cool to use when you're flying for managing jet lag. So I got to say I was a little skeptical about the noticing improvement after one use, but literally I use these glasses and my sleep is actually already pretty good. I used them for one day, and I have to say after one day, I had the best sleep of my life. I just felt so rested. So these glasses, they ship free and they're tracked for all orders anywhere in the world. And also they have all their frames come in prescription, non-prescription, and reading glasses. Plus you can send in your frames and they'll add the blue light blocking and green light blocking lenses to your frame. So this is an easy hack that you can add to your fertility toolkit. All you do is go to BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com. Use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast at checkout and receive a 15% discount. That's BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast to receive your 15% discount. I didn't need to go to donor eggs. Obviously, I don't regret it. I have beautiful children. I could have done things differently, restored. I was still cycling back in my 20s. I could have looked at my health, the environmental toxins, the stress I was under.
Many women are being told their eggs are too old. That's often merely an assumption that's not based on actual evidence. The reason being that there is no direct test of egg quality. You can't test egg quality.
It's the man who's got a food sensitivity or he has a zinc deficiency.
Like there can be a root cause to these symptoms that are, quote unquote, period problems, that the doctor will pass you a pill without any question of why.
And some part of you knows that if you can reframe your journey from not want to struggle, or if it is struggle, learn how to embrace the struggle. Learn how to embrace it.
Most conditions in the child occur during the 9 months of development. It's the genetic switches are turned on or turned off, and they're pre-programmed. So you are in such a powerful, amazing position to do amazing things for your kids.
Why is IVF the first step? Because we believe it should be the last step. Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey there, I'm Sarah Clark, founder of Fab Fertile and your host. I believe the functional approach is the first step for anyone struggling with infertility, and my aim is to help you get pregnant naturally. Today we're digging into how to optimize your success with donor eggs. So this episode is for you as if you have decided donor eggs are the best option to get pregnant and have your baby. You're concerned about the emotional aspect of donor eggs, bonding, such as how to tell your child, and you're not sure what to do to optimize your success with donor eggs. So we're going to be digging into the details. Definitely check out episode number 6 for a functional medicine 101 talk, plus a look at some of the tools that we use to help couples conceive. Thanks so much for listening, and I'm really so thankful that you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe, and if you know someone else who is on the fertility journey, please share this podcast with them. Hey everyone, please refer to the disclaimer at the end of the show. We are not doctors. Be sure to consult with your physician before making any of these changes. Our goal is to educate you so that you can be empowered to know there are many changes to help you either get pregnant naturally, improve your success with IVF, or donor eggs. So today I'm going to be digging into my experience with donor eggs. And you may have heard part of my story, but I'm going to be going into a little more detail today. If you've decided that donor eggs is the option for you, you can really learn from my story, I hope, and reach out if you have any questions about it. So basically, in my early 20s, I had irregular cycles. By irregular, I mean my period was coming a couple times a year. I had a weird fungal rash on my chest. I had acne, and in my teen years, I had great skin. And then all of a sudden, I started getting acne on my chin. And then I had some yeast infections. And so that was my early 20s. First line of defense was I went to my OB and was put on birth control. So put on birth control, it never fixed the acne. The only thing it did was regulate my period falsely. And so I'm a big planner. So I had a plan of getting married at 25 and having my kids at 28. So got married at 25. And then just before 28, I decided to go off the pill and went off the pill, and my cycles were still irregular. So went to my OBGYN and had some testing done. And that's when I was told I had premature ovarian failure, or premature ovarian insufficiency, POI, as it's now called. It was told my only option to have children was to use donor eggs. And I literally remember her being in her office and her just like reaching up on her shelf, grabbing the IVF brochure and saying, off you go to the clinic. And I was like, complete shock. Like, what do you mean, I'll never have my own biological children. And I remember leaving her office and like with this brochure in hand and, spoke with my husband. And, I'm an action-oriented kind of person. And so it's interesting because I think I was in such shock that I didn't even cry. I was like, okay, well, this is what we need to do. And in between that, I was like, okay, let's see if I have a couple friends that decided they don't want to have children. I decided to ask both of them if they would be a donor for me. And both of them, they're like my close friends. They thought it over very, very carefully, but it didn't feel right for them. at the time, and some of this is weird because I don't know if I've blocked it out or if there's some sort of like memory issues. I'll say to my husband, what did I think at that point? He's like, you were pissed. Like you were pissed that they couldn't do it. It's like a massive, obviously it's a massive thing to ask someone. Obviously understood years later, and I know how it did happen actually was for the best for us. So yeah, I was pissed about that. Then we decided to go forward with the donor egg program at our clinic. And this is in Canada. This is almost 19 years ago. So back then there was a donor who, so they were going through fertility treatment, and it was male factor infertility. So in return for us paying for their IVF, their medication, they would then in turn donate half of their eggs to us. And this was an anonymous program. So we received the back to the maternal and paternal grandparents medical information and some physical information about the donor. Appearance and education, a few like things about hobbies and just some things like that, some basic things. We received that via the mail. So I remember like waiting for my little package in the mail. So we selected the second one. Obviously, we wanted to make sure that the health history was clear, and we had no picture. And I'm like super tall. I'm like 6 foot tall. And so I wanted to have a donor that was reasonably tall. My husband's 5'7", so I wanted to have, well, he says he's 5'8", but really 5'7" on a good day. I wanted to have a donor that was reasonably tall. So that was like, I'm like being tall, I'm just obsessed with height. We selected for our daughter, the donor was 5'9", obviously other, education and medical history. And yes, basically the clinic would sort of match what they thought would be someone that like reasonably was close to you. We went through that procedure. Yeah, there was interesting when I was in the clinic, like waiting, I literally saw this this tall, gorgeous woman leaving the clinic kind of around the same time that I was in there. I'm like, I wonder if that's her. So anyways, then we went through the procedure, and we were lucky enough on the first fresh transfer to have our daughter. And yeah, Ava is about to turn 19 now. So this was like so many years ago that the donor egg, it's more common now. I think more people have heard of it. Still not as many people have heard of it, but definitely more than 19 years ago when I was going through this. I had no one. I had some, these forums and chat groups in the dark parts of the web that I was trying to find out. And then basically for POI, it was like, you're going to crumble with osteoporosis and heart disease and never have a child, and it's like game over. So it's all doom and gloom. Obviously we help, people right now with POI get pregnant, with their own eggs. So we've seen it reversed. But back then I had no clue as to what was going on. So yeah, we were lucky enough to have our daughter. And then so I wanted to have the kids close together, and we had 2 embryos left over. And actually just the postpartum period in there. In my postpartum period, I was super, I wouldn't consider myself an anxious person. I'm just like an irritable person. And there's postpartum anxiety and depression. They also talk about postpartum rage. I don't know if I necessarily had rage, but I was like ticked. I remember like one point, this is back when, before I guess we had cell phones back then, but anyway, I was on the kitchen phone and I was like so ticked off. I just wanted to like whip the phone across the fence. Like, I don't know, just a lot of irritability and stress going on. Like my postpartum period was brutal. I was the kind of person like, I will push through it and I will keep going. That was that, which now we know, obviously those are signs that there's an imbalance going on and what's going on with the hormones. And obviously my hormones were completely out of balance because I had POI. So we had the 2 embryos left over, went back in, super stressed, wanted the kids close together. Me and my planning were lucky enough on that one, it didn't work. So we had to then get another donor. Again, waited for the profile to come in. It was male factor infertility for this couple. She donated half her eggs to us. We selected the donor. Again, it was all anonymous. I didn't ask anyone else at this stage to be a donor for me, any of my friends. And we went to the clinic, and we're lucky enough on that fresh transfer to have our son. So he's 16 at this stage. So yeah, like it's very fortunate that this worked for us because donor eggs, there's still a 50% success rate of it working. And then so just backtrack a little bit. So after we had our daughter, my immune system was like so low. So I remember I went back to work. I was in HR at the time, and I had remember like 9 colds. Every cold went to a sinus infection. I thought it was a great idea for every cold to take antibiotic. I literally would be like running into the clinic going, just like, I can't breathe. I'm dying here. Just give me the antibiotics. And they'd write the prescription and off I'd go. So just completely obliterated all my gut health with this like high antibiotic use. And then I started getting chronic bladder infections, was peeing blood, became allergic to all the antibiotics there. Like, I was really backed into the corner with the bladder infection, and I didn't really know what to do because all the antibiotics started giving me hives, and there was like a whole list of them I couldn't even use anymore. And then the yeast infections started getting worse. I'd had it kind of in my early 20s, and they just started getting worse. Seasonal allergies. I remember like every June when the trees came in, I'd be sneezing and like itching and taking all sorts of Claritin, and seasonal allergies just brutal, and which is an indicator of some gut health issues going on. And then and dandruff that went on for years. They actually say that the top selling shampoo in the world is Head and Shoulders. Like, what the heck is going on here? Because that, again, the skin is a direct reflection of our gut health. So if you got dandruff issues going on, like it's a clue to dig deeper, and using Head and Shoulders is definitely not what you want to put that toxic stuff on your body. But I did for years. And then I also had, so I had dandruff and toenail infections. Like, what's going on there? Toenail infections. That was kind of, so basically for my health, my immune system was fairly low, and I would get, colds and flus and just get sick more than other people, but I would keep going. And so at the time I was in corporate HR, like a very stressful job there. We had to do I was in the middle of almost like downsizing a whole entire organization. So with lawyers and people that had been in the company for like 30 years. And yeah, it was extremely stressful for me during this time. So yeah. And so then I decided I wanted to bring life coaching into this corporate environment. So took a life coaching course. And then when I did the life coaching course, that was my own personal wake-up call. I discovered that I really had always all along loved health and wellness. Like in my spare time, what do you like to do? I love the health and wellness. I still do that. And that's why I love what I do right now, because it's like reading things and learning things and then sharing them with other people. Yeah. So to find your passion, figure it is what it is you do on your downtime. Yeah. So I took the health coaching course, and that's when I discovered I had these food sensitivities. So for me at the time, it was gluten and dairy. Took those out of my diet. Lo and behold, the sinus infections, every cold didn't go into a sinus infection. The bladder infections started to improve. The seasonal allergies, I was no longer like sneezing, all the time during high pollen times. The dandruff started to go away. This took a little bit of time, over probably, it was interesting though. The first 2 to 3 months, I noticed a big improvement. And then I later took out corn. And then a few years later after that, I did some gut testing. I had some gut infections such as H. pylori. I had streptococcus. I had fungal infections. No, that's no surprise with the dandruff, the toenail infections, the yeast infections. It's an indicator of something going on with a fungal thing. So address those. And then the underlying piece of all of this was chronic stress. And actually, I would probably have said I wasn't stressed. I was like, I'm not stressed. Because I just kept going. I'm like, okay, I had a lot of energy. I'm like, even though I was like sick, I still had a lot of energy. I just kept going. And I'm like, okay, I'll just get it done, blah, blah, blah. But meanwhile, I'm back in university. I had TMJ, like my jaw was practically like, I remember trying to eat a fry and I couldn't even open my jaw to eat the fry. Probably wasn't a good thing for me because the fry could have wheat on it, which I probably always had a sensitivity to gluten. Yeah, it was always kind of like the shoulders kind of tense, like neck pain, that sort of thing. And just this constant doing, like I must achieve, I must do, I must like, I had no problem actually asking for help or delegating, but it was like, I just kept going and I was so disconnected from my body. Like, what the heck? Like she is like yelling, Sarah, like slow down. And I'm like, nope. I'm going to keep going until, then it has, your personal wake-up call. If you're listening to this, for us, it's infertility. That was my wake-up call. And then I really didn't discover any of all of this stuff, the full thing until not until I was 40, all the gut infections and the food sensitivities. At that point, fully in menopause, I'd been on HRT for 10 years. So I was never able to regain my period. But what I know from working with couples that have infertility, there are huge huge steps we can take with the functional approach to either help you get pregnant naturally, whatever you have. Obviously, there's some structural issues that IVF was developed for, but we can still things we can do to optimize the success of that. Obviously, if there's cancer or anything like that, then you need to look at IVF potentially or for sure. But the majority of people can't get pregnant naturally or improve their chances of success. But today we are talking about donor eggs. And once you have made the decision to go with donor eggs, like that is, there's a peace, like a sense of peace in that decision. Like for me, it was like, oh, I actually felt worse for people that had to go through years of IVF. Like I thought, wow, look at them. They're going through all this stuff. They don't know. I'm like, I just thought it was a sure thing. Now it turns out there's still an average of a 50% success rate with donor eggs. And it's still important to figure out the underlying reasons, why at this stage, either, for you, it's not working, you've decided to go to donor eggs. There's still things you want to do to optimize your health. I'm just going to talk about some of those. So some top tips right now to optimize success with donor eggs. And some themes that we're seeing, and we're going to talk about a case study. Basically, diet does matter. Like we have seen this over and over again, even though people come to us, I'd say the majority of people, some of them are eating the standard Western diet, but a lot of them have already, they quote unquote eating clean. They've dabbled around with gluten. They may have taken out dairy. They could be eating, various other diets, keto, paleo, plant-based, whatever it may be. But our whole thing with the functional approach is a very personalized, very customized approach. So it's figuring out the diet that is right for you. And so diet, as we've seen over and over again, so this is a stressor on the body. What you put on your fork every day, 3 times or more times a day does matter for your health and your fertility. And it's not just about like digging in and looking at the egg health. When you look at if you reduce the stressors on the body, the egg health improves. But in this case, for donor eggs, if there's inflammation coming in your body, you want to reduce that inflammation. So we have both partners do the elimination diet. And it's not just about you. Like even you want to make sure, especially in the donor egg situation, that your partner's sperm is completely optimized. And even if his semen analysis is fine, we will do a blood chemistry review, not to diagnose, but to educate and see, what healing opportunities are missed for him. And there's usually always something to do to optimize his health. So important for both. And a lot of the time with the diet too, it's not just you cooking by yourself. You guys are doing, obviously if you are single and you are doing this by yourself, it's different. But if you're part of a couple, to eat together, to cook together, to place, give the food some love, that you're like nourishing and preparing your body for this beautiful pregnancy and baby that's about to come. So we start with the elimination diet. It really helps you tune into how your body's feeling. We tweak it further with food sensitivity testing, depending on where you are in the world. So we have access to food sensitivity testing. We ship these tests worldwide, and depending on where you are is what tests we will have available for you. But as we said, there's a theme that we see is high sensitivity to gluten. So non-celiac gluten sensitivity, even if you've had a celiac test and it's been negative, there's a lot of false negatives with the conventional celiac test. It's only looking for 4 proteins in gluten, and there's over 60. So there's, again, some false negatives. To me, if people come to us and like, oh, I think when I have gluten, it gives me digestive issues, or when I have dairy, I kind of feel bloated, or like those are clues. If you have any kind of bloating or gas or constipation, diarrhea, digestive issues, like that's a clue for a food sensitivity. Also, people just think, oh, I don't have any digestive issues. And that was me. My digestion was always fine, but I had skin issues, eczema. I had, and those are clues of food sensitivities or gut health issues. So I had eczema, I had acne, I had, dandruff. So things going on with the skin. So skin rashes, psoriasis, dermatitis, and then also mood issues. So for me, the irritability, but it's like anxiety, depression, ADHD, bipolar, like mood issues. If you have brain fog, where you're like, wait, I can't remember anything, those sort of things. So looking at some mood and the gut and food sensitivities, that's definitely tied together. Also joint issues. So if you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm getting older, my joints are getting stiff. Doesn't mean as we get older that we start to feel, obviously you're going to potentially not feel as great as when you were 20, but it doesn't mean that we just kind of have this steep decline and we've got to have all these pains. No, like it's sort of the tipping point for the body that something's causing inflammation. A lot of this is having an open mind to be able to, look into this and say, what can I do to optimize my health? So those are some some issues to dig into. So, and also if you have an autoimmune disease, it is key that you look at the diet and gut health. And the case study that we're going to talk about, we'll go into in depth about that. We see that a lot actually with people that are going for donor eggs. Actually, there's either they come in with an autoimmune disease or it's undiagnosed, and we're not diagnosing in the blood chem, but we could say, oh wait, something's looking a little bit off. Go see your physician. Sometimes they're diagnosed with something. So especially if you have that in your family, again, not to say everyone has that, but we see it being missed. So diet does matter. So digging into the diet piece, really looking at that in a personalized approach. The next one we have is gut health. So really looking, the health of your gut is linked to your hormone health. So it improves your estrogen, your thyroid function, your cortisol levels, your mineral absorption. We see this all the time. People eating this nutrient-dense organic diet, and they're well-fed but malnourished. Your body's just not absorbing the foods. So we're doing hair tissue mineral analysis tests to see, what are your mineral levels, and we're doing gut testing. So the majority of people that we work with, there's something going on in the gut: parasite, bacterial infections, fungal infections, H. pylori being passed back to each other. So looking at gut health is key. I think most people, when they're trying to, have a baby, looking at getting a gut test is, I think, like the people that I speak with, like 5% of the people have even thought about that. And gut health is key. So that's a definite tip to optimize your success with donor eggs. Because if you got a parasite, bacterial infection, fungal, passing an infection back and forth to your body, to your partner, your body wants to survive, not procreate. So it's reducing that stress on the body. And the next one we have is the environmental toxins. Many of us know this, but I still see that people are not all quite, haven't quite eliminated all the environmental toxins. You're looking at your personal care. It's not about throwing everything in the garbage. It's as each product expires, you're looking at a non-toxic option. Same for your cleaning products, the water that you're drinking, making sure it's filtered. You're exposing your body to plastics, which are known endocrine disruptors. So getting a stainless steel or a glass water bottle. For sure, swapping out your feminine hygiene. Your pads and tampons can be sprayed with glyphosate, which has been linked to infertility and a whole host of other diseases. So like if a guy or gal in a Tyvek suit is wearing a respirator, spraying our food, why would we want to eat that or put that, especially if it's sprayed, the cotton being sprayed, why do we want to put that in our vagina? Switching to either a Diva cup, like a menstrual cup, or organic pads and tampons is key. I would do that right away. The rest of it, just wait until it expires. So and also EMFs, we're exposed to all this, our Wi-Fi, our cell phones, our tablets, our laptops, all this electromagnetic frequency, and it's impacting sperm health, egg health. So to, first of all, take your phone off of your body, take it out of your bedroom, charge it somewhere else, at least put it on flight mode, and don't have it anywhere near your head or on your person. So we've got lots of podcast episodes about EMFs and the dangers around that, but really simple steps you can do to opt to minimize your risk. Some people are very sensitive to EMFs and can cause a whole host of issues. It's not about panic or worry here. It's basically just put the phone on flight mode, don't keep it on your body, and move it away from you, and don't have your Wi-Fi, like I did for years, sitting under your feet. Move it, downstairs in the basement, away from you. Another big component so that's really looking at your diet, addressing the food sensitivities, addressing the gut infections, minimizing and reducing as much as possible the environmental toxins. Always opt for organic if that's cost prohibitive. Even then, you go to the environmental working group and there's a dirty dozen foods. Make sure that the foods that are dirty dozen are the most highly sprayed. Kale, strawberries are some of the top ones, like these seemingly healthy foods sprayed with toxins, and always opt for organic. That is key. Yeah, we're in a huge food experiment, and there's a reason that infertility rates are on the rise. Definitely look at that. And the last one we have is the mental emotional side of this. So I coach because of my story with donor eggs, I do coach a lot of couples that have decided to move to donor eggs. They like to be with someone that has experienced this, because it's few and far between, although it is getting more, I wouldn't say popular, but more common. And so they're, drawn to my story and have someone that actually understands this and gets it. So first I'm just going to dig into, if you've decided to select donor eggs, and that's why you're listening to this episode, first of all is to visualize it working. A lot of times we have limiting beliefs that our body is broken, and potentially what's going on right now in the world, it's not safe to bring a baby into the world. And maybe if you have secondary infertility and the second child is, you're looking for donor eggs, you could have had a traumatic birth, or there could be trauma. So as part of our program, it's a mind, body, spirit program. And so we help with, moving trauma out the body with emotional freedom technique, EFT. You can check out an episode we did on that. If you just search emotional freedom technique, we'll go into the details about that. But a huge thing that I help couples work on is visualizing this working. It can be, you've tried so long with your own eggs, obviously, and then now it's like, okay, I'm going to donor eggs, and you still need to look at those underlying issues and those underlying limiting beliefs, and if there's trauma, and I shouldn't say if, going through infertility in itself can be traumatizing. And I did have an episode on trauma as well, and a lot of it is how do you view it? Do you view it as trauma or not? Really be open to digging into that a little more, and so that the mental emotional side of this stuff is key for your success, and to be able to not stuff it down. Like I was like, oh, I'm fine, totally fine. And no, I wasn't. So I didn't have like anyone to really, even though I have close girlfriends, was able to talk to a lot of people about stuff. But looking back, that to have the support of someone that really understood what I was going through is key. So now I just want to dig into the emotional aspects of selecting with donor eggs. So questions that I get quite regularly from people, it's fairly common questions. So first of all, the question I get is, are worrying about bonding with a child. And this is very common, where you're like, wait a minute, well, I feel like this is my child. It doesn't have this, he or she doesn't have the same DNA as me. Will I, when they come out, will I be like, oh my goodness, and maybe carrying the child? Am I going to be thinking this is someone else's? There's actually studies that say that obviously you are carrying the child. You're the host for this little embryo, and that your DNA is in the child. That was helpful for me to think of. And also another one is for, will you tell the child? Now my mother was adopted, and she didn't tell us that she was adopted until I was 12. I remember being like completely shocked, like at 12, and she's telling me this, and I'm like, why didn't you tell me earlier? Like, what was the big secret? Now, this was back in the 40s that, she was adopted with her twin. Yeah. So this with adoption, I was like, okay, I wanted to, I didn't want to have that for my children. I wanted just to make this very like normal, that, mommy's had to borrow some eggs from another lady, and because hers weren't working, and just like as young as I could. It was like 4, with the birds and the bees, those little Where Did I Come From books. And I started talking about it. So it's just something all along that they've known. And, one of my kids wanted to look at the history, the maternal and paternal history. The other one's like, I'm not interested. And the other one may want to look at it later. So I really tried to make this not about me. I'm like, this is not my medical history. This is their medical history. Also, to be aware that potentially at one point, because they know this, they may say, you're not my mother. Yeah, one of my kids was like very obsessed with, where's the other mother? Tell me about the other mother. Where is she? I sat down and read through all the information, and that seemed to satisfy them. And then it's like, and then obviously I'm very open about this. I've written a book about it. I have a podcast. I'm very open about it because I wanted to be able to normalize this experience for people. And, I obviously very grateful I'm able to have both my kids because of 2 people that donated their eggs and helped us. So I felt it was right for me to share. Now you need to decide what's right for you. So will you tell, or will you, or won't you? And that's a complete, it's a very personal decision of what you're going to do with that. The bonding thing for me, though, I had no issues with bonding with my baby when they came out. When both of them came out, I'm like, that's my child. I never even thought. I'm kind of like, I think both of my kids are beautiful inside and out. And I was like, I don't know, I didn't necessarily need them to, like, I have a nose that I don't need my nose to be passed on to the next generation, my British nose. So I was glad that I didn't have to have that. And I don't know, it's just a few things like that where I was like, okay. And it's interesting for my daughter, people are like, oh, you guys look alike. I guess we have the same mannerisms, like maybe the same chin. I don't necessarily see it. Even say we look like my son, which it's interesting what people will say, right? So, and obviously, and I'm not going to be saying, well, no, she's from a donor if someone says that to me. Now, if it's like a close friend or family, then, they typically aren't going to say that. But other people say it, I just like, oh, thanks. And my daughter and I, or my son and I, we just kind of laugh. yeah, just being very open about it. So like none of it's a big deal. And if someone wants to search later on, they can search. And my mom searched for her adoptive parents. Make it not about me has always been my goal there. And then also, obviously deciding to go to donor eggs, and it's like takes time to adjust to this idea. So there can be obviously in the beginning sadness and fear. Will it work? Then excitement that it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I've decided to go for donor eggs. This is our next step. This transition can be easy for some, but challenging for others. So there's like no judgment or pressure on yourself. Like for me, I literally had framed it in my thought that I thought other people had it worse than I did. I clearly visualized it working. I just knew it was going to work. I saw that my daughter was going to be a girl, my son was going to be a boy. It was just the weirdest thing. I just highly visualized it working. I knew deep in my soul it was going to work. Off it went. So maybe I was naive. I have no idea. But the power of the mind is key. So, but if you're having challenges with that, like to not again judge yourself for that, is to get support with it and get help with it, because it can, as I say, easy for some, challenging for others. Definitely reach out for support. And the guilt, the shame, a lot of shame with this, right? Potentially for you if you're having that. So being able to address those feelings, don't push it down. Some of it might not be like, I don't want to tell anyone. And it might even just be like, I'm just going to pick, maybe a couple people to tell. Or if you're not telling anyone, then it's just you and your partner that, or maybe it's like you tell your parents. Whatever feels right for you is the key to all of this. We all have our own journey, and it's got to be what feels right for you is the last thing I'll sort of say on the mental emotional thing. But it takes time. And so sometimes people need a bit of time to process that this is the next step that they're going through, and the stages of grief. Like I coach people on this, the stages of grief, moving to acceptance of this is where I am and I'm ready for donor eggs now. And that feels right for me and my partner. So I just want to give you a case study. So this couple came to us. So she is 32. She had Hashimoto's. She'd been on long-term birth control for about 10 years or so. She hadn't had her period in a couple years. Her vitamin D was low, which we see this a lot of time with low vitamin D in the 20s or in the teens. For functional range, it should be 60 to 80. So that's an indicator, it's the hormones. So you want to make sure that's optimized. But again, that can be a clue. We don't just band-aid it up with the supplementing. We dig deeper. She had fatigue, anxiety, and joint pain. So those ones we were talking about in the beginning with those food sensitivities. So for her, we addressed the food sensitivities, which she definitely had a lot of. We found out that, again, the theme of a high sensitivity to gluten, so non-celiac gluten sensitivity was her issue. We had both her and her partner go on the elimination diet. He ended up losing like 25 pounds, and he had a lot of anxiety, like just anxiety from when he was young too. So he was able to optimize that. They're both busy professionals. She stepped back from her career. He was still there. No, he had stepped back from his career as well. So, but anyway, so both of them had some food sensitivities. Hers was very high sensitivity to gluten. With that, we recommend the whole house going gluten-free. And really, there's a lot of cross reactors with gluten. So we work on cross reactors. Typically, a main cross reactor is dairy, but there's a whole host of other ones. So it's key to address these inflammation from the food sensitivities. We optimized her gut health, found out she had multiple parasites, fungal overgrowth. She had that high stress job that she had just transitioned out of. So that chronic stress, like typically coaching an overachiever, highly ambitious people, and everything's worked out kind of career-wise and life-wise. And now it's like, oh, my health is now taking a nosedive, and having to really have that wake-up call. And so for her first IVF with donor eggs was a success, and she's 7 months pregnant as of recording this right now. Her anxiety, her joint pain, her digestive issues improved. We addressed the low vitamin D, which I said was can be common with autoimmune issues and gut infections. So really looking at the whole body, mind, body, spirit, addressing these issues. We are not doctors, but we're looking at healing opportunities using testing, so those functional tests, and then really looking to optimize the body. And so I'll just talk about our protocol here. So our proven protocol can improve the success of donor eggs. And with it being 50% success, it's key to look at, what are the underlying factors. And like our Fab Fertile Method has that functional testing. So we're doing the food sensitivity testing, the stool testing, looking at the DNA of your stool. This is not not like your conventional stool testing. This is cutting edge stool testing. It's hormone testing using urine. It really tells the urine over the course of 2 days tells us exactly which pathways the hormones are going down, looking at your cortisol, looking at your melatonin, looking at your sex hormones. And all of this helps to tell a story. We're looking at your hair, so you could be eating that beautiful nutrient-dense diet, but there could be malabsorption. You're not absorbing all those great nutrients. And the blood chemistry review. So we're looking at your blood chemistry for both you and your partner. Even if he's like, my semen is fine, everything's great, there's always things, especially for donor eggs, really, especially for anything. It takes two to have a baby. It's not just focusing on the health of the woman. Looking at his blood chemistry, what healing opportunities are missed for him. And then the foundations of all this. So the foundation piece, and some of this we know, but it's the difference between knowing and doing. Looking at the diet that's right for you. So looking at the elimination diet and then seeing how food impacts your body, digging in deeper. Sleep, like we work for months for people on sleep hygiene. First step is just take the phone out of the room. But like if you've got any kind of interrupted sleep, insomnia, waking up fatigued, issues with sleep, that is key for your health and fertility. Really, we really dig into that piece. Movement, because of an overachiever type A person, we get people that are over exercising is just part of how they handle stress that can then further deplete your reserves and impact your cortisol levels, which then impact your sex hormones. So really it's not about over exercising or under exercising, it's looking at it all. And then the underlying piece of all of this is chronic stress. And we're in our lives, or everyone is quote unquote busy. There's like addressing the stress is equally as important, looking at the food sensitivities and the gut infections. So mental, emotional stress, trauma, really being able to give voice to what it is those 2/3 of our thoughts are under this negative, spontaneous negative loop. So catastrophizing about the future, ruminating about the past. A lot of people I coach have got huge triggers around health and any kind of health issue. They're down a rabbit hole of Dr. Google. The stress piece is key. And a lot of this, you cannot out supplement the basics. So it's like, here's all the supplements, but you're not working on your sleep, your diet, your movement, and your stress. So it's not just, most people come to us with a laundry list of supplements. It's not just about the supplements. It's all of it, mind, body, spirit. Like we said again, so reducing the stressors, the diet that's right for you, digging into addressing those gut infections. We see this missed all the time. Environmental toxins, like we talked about, like looking at your personal care, your cleaning products, your EMFs, the mental, emotional stress, and also structural stress. Like if you got a pinched nerve or a misalignment, or you're like me at a desk all day long, hunched over a computer, like looking at a chiropractor to be able to open up those, if there's any kind of things that are out of alignment, acupuncture, things like that can be some structural stress. Maybe also you had a C-section or you've had surgery. So looking at if there's adhesions, there's an episode on that we do as well, physical therapy and adhesions. So structural stress is key. And also the Fab Fertile Method, it includes your partner. And obviously we coach singles, but predominantly we're coaching couples. It is not just about you making these changes. It's you making them along with your partner. It is laying that really solid foundation for looking at both of your preconception health, mind, body, spirit. Next steps for you. If you have decided to move forward with donor eggs, it's essential that you optimize the health of both you and your partner. So it's healthy parents, healthy pregnancy, healthy postpartum period, and healthy child. And there is no downside of focusing on your health. So if you've got the donor egg coming up, and our program is a 6-month program. So as you're starting to decide to move towards donor eggs, you can take these next 6 months, and then when you're ready for your transfer, you'll optimize your success. If you're ready to take a targeted, customized approach to your fertility, including your partner, to optimize your success with donor eggs, you can go to Fab Fertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on the link to book a free call. Also go to the show notes in the podcast. And thanks so much for listening. Yeah, really this topic obviously is near and dear to my heart. I don't think a lot of people speak about it openly, with their experience with donor eggs. I just really want to give people hope that there's things you can do to be really empowered to bring this life into the world. And I like that quote I sort of saw it written somewhere, like, our children will know how hard we worked and how cherished they are, that, for us to bring them into this life. Anyone that's been diagnosed with infertility, it is a journey. we really work very hard to bring in our child into this world, and to really for the children to know that they are so cherished and loved. Yeah, it's about right now for you to you and your partner to mother yourselves. Like, put the oxygen mask on first. Focus on self-care, mother yourselves as you prepare to bring your baby into this world. So thank you again. I wanted to let you know, since recording the podcast episode with Dr. Annika Becca, I have had a chance to try Julva, and I highly recommend it. So personally, I've been experiencing painful sex for a number of years. Like, it has just been like cut glass. It has been brutal. And I've tried many things, and I tried Julva, a couple applications, and yeah, so it is really good. So if that's something that you're experiencing, I highly recommend Julva. It's also great for any kind of urinary leakage, so vaginal dryness and discomfort. It helps also to deepen your passion and sensation, and it can improve skin elasticity and vaginal tightening. So if that's something that you want to learn more about, you can click on the link in the show notes, and I highly recommend. She has a 7-day free trial, so really nothing to lose there. I also love it because it has no additives, it's estrogen-free, it's non-GMO, it's paraben-free, it's phthalate-free, and so it's only using natural products that your body loves. So, and it's not tested on animals. If this is something that you want to learn more about, just go to the show notes, click on your free trial of Julva. Melatonin is important for female fertility. It helps regulate hormones and maintain the body's circadian rhythms. Plus, it helps determine the frequency and duration of the menstrual cycle. Plus, it impacts sperm count and motility. Blue and green light negatively impact our melatonin production. That's why we recommend Blue Blocks, blue and green light sleep glasses to all our one-to-one clients. Simply go to Blue Blocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast at checkout to receive your 15% discount. That's Blue Blocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast. Hey there, I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 2 spots available per month to work with us. So the Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery call is for action takers, and really people who are ready to move forward so they can finally have their baby. And if you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. So if you're seriously considering working with us, go to Fab Fertile, FABfertile.com, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. That's Fab Fertile, FABfertile.com, and click on Book a Free Call. I'm excited to offer you a special gift. If you are a U.S. resident, text Fertile, Fertile, to 55444. You'll be prompted to enter your email address, and you'll receive our Fertility Yoga download. In this 20-minute intro video, we focus on a calming and peaceful practice to connect back to our heart. These simple yoga poses can help quiet negative thoughts and make you feel more in control. Download it now and get started today. For U.S. residents, text Fertile, Fertile, to 55444. For non-U.S. residents, go to Yoga Freebie, Freebie, to access your special gift. That's yogafreebie.com to access the free Fertility Yoga download. The Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, including show notes and links, provides information with respect to healthy living, nutrition, lab testing, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice, and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.